Well, Razorback fans, there are a lot of games on this football schedule that Arkansas, it'd be really nice if they won. But which game is going to be the game that they have to win to have a good season? I'm going to talk about on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Thursday as we are just 9 days, Matt Jones days, away from Razorback football starting up. And we're going to talk about a few things, one of them being a new policy for field rushing for the Razorbacks. Interesting. As well as a particular thing dealing with the Razorbacks and how many games that they have to win in order for them to be able to be considered, can't even take it seriously, for the college football playoff. It's a kind of an interesting format that we'll dive into a little bit. But I wanted to start today in dealing with a particular setup of this schedule. Because let's be honest, this schedule is pretty tough. It's brutal, needless to say. And it's one that I think Razorback fans understand how tough it is, but there's no excuses for it. That's the main thing. It's not one of these deals that you can just have some fun with and think that, as long as they give it their all, then it's going to be fine. As long as they win one for the Gipper, even if they go 6-6, I'm going to be just as happy as ever, and that's it. Nope, that's not the case. That's not what's going to happen this year. This year is about winning games. And doesn't matter how tough they are, or it doesn't matter where they're at, you got to win games. And there's no doubt that Arkansas has one of the more difficult schedules in all of college football. Join the club. It happens every year. It's a tradition like no other, a tale as old as time. But we've known what the schedule has looked like for Arkansas. We know what some of these teams are looking like right now at this point in time of fall camp and getting into game prep as we get closer to the season. We know where these teams have been predicted. We know all of these things. I would even say that we know all the times that these games are going to transpire, but we don't know all of those just yet. Some of them are still up in the air. But the point is, we have an idea. But every single year when you look at all these games, you start to think about wins and losses and do your predictions, which I'll have my predictions as we get closer to the actual first game. But you get to your game predictions, and then you look at this team, and you're like, all right, well, that should be a win. This game should be a loss. This game could go either way, a coin flip, if one thing happens to the other. You start really racking your mind as far as all the things that could or could not happen with this team this year. But I'm looking at the game. Not the biggest game on the schedule, not the toughest one, not the one that'll have the biggest crowd. I'm looking at the game. The game that will make the difference for this Razorback football season. The game that will determine if Arkansas has a successful season or a losing season. The game that could realistically go either way, but also be a game that is unpredictable, where maybe you don't know too much about them. They don't know too much about you at a certain point in time of the year, certain point in time of the season. What could transpire? What game is that? The X factor. Some of you think, and you're not wrong because it's an opinion, but some of you think that the Ole Miss game on the road is the game that you say, hey, if Arkansas wins this game, they're going to have a great season. And you know what? It could make sense. Starting 3-0 would be awesome. Starting out with your first win in the SEC being a dub on the road against an Ole Miss team that beat the brakes off of you last year. Yeah, for sure. That'd be awesome. But you still got 9 games left and a lot more difficult games left. Some of you may say it's Notre Dame. Well, because it's the biggest game at home. Maybe. Texas on the road. Again, everyone's going to have their own opinion on this. But when I'm looking at what game that will make the difference. And what I mean by that is, if you didn't tell me any result of any other game this season, but you told me the result of this one game, I would be able to dictate exactly how the year went. Folks, it's the Texas A&M game in Fayetteville. Now, stay with me on this. Because a lot of you are going to disagree. And again, that's fine. But to me, if you told me that you have no idea what the other games this season are going to hold, you don't know. But you know for a fact that Arkansas is going to beat Texas A&M in Fayetteville on October 18th. I will immediately say, hey, it's going to be a pretty good year for Arkansas. And here's why. It's right smack in the middle of the year. You've played, at that point in time, you will have played at least 6 games. I mean, it could not be more halfway point. You are coming off of a road trip to Tennessee, a team that you beat a year prior, which Tennessee, I mean, who knows? Maybe you win that game. Maybe you find a way. But I think after 6 games of the season, you and me, we all have a pretty good idea of what this Razorback team is looking like. They've had some easier games, more winnable games. Because let's be honest, they should, at worst, better be 3-3. If they're anything worse than that, it's disaster mode. But you've had some easier games. Alabama A&M, Arkansas State, maybe at Memphis, that's a game you should win. Maybe find a way to sneak around and find a way to beat an Ole Miss or beat a Notre Dame or beat a Tennessee. Just something like that. 3-3, 4-2, whatever it is. But it's at that juncture, at the start of that 3-game stretch at home that you have against SEC opponents, that's going to make it all the difference. So let's just play the game that you're 3-3, which I feel like is a very realistic, legitimate thing, that you would be 3-3 at that point in time. 2 of those wins better be against Alabama A&M and Arkansas State. But the other win, pick one. Just pick whoever you want. It doesn't matter. You're 3-3 with 6 games left. You got to at least win 3 of the next 6 to get to a bowl game. We know that. So say you beat Texas A&M. Now you're at 4-3. You get Auburn and Mississippi State back-to-back games. 2 of the teams that, I don't even know if it's a question, are your easiest games left on the schedule in the SEC. I think it's the easiest games that you have, period. And they're at home. I'm not saying you will, but you should. You should win both of those games. So suddenly you go from being 3-3 to 6-3, boom. Right then and there. You're bowl eligible. You are bowl eligible 9 games into the year. Who's not signing up for that? Now, granted, the final 3 games of the year are easy games, obviously coming off of the bye week, on the road against LSU, on the road against Texas, and then the team that you always find so many magnificent ways to lose against, Missouri, at the end of the season in Fayetteville. So could you go 0-3 in that final 3-game stretch? Absolutely, you could. In fact, it would probably be predictable. But that would put you at 6-6. I am not saying it's a success. I am not saying you should feel good. I'm not saying Sam Pittman should keep his job for that. I'm not saying any of those things. I'm just saying, going into the year, given the schedule, given the team, if you go 6-6, it's not an embarrassment. It's not a disaster. It's not a failure of the most highest and epic proportions. It's a very average, in some cases below average season, right? Hopefully you can agree with that. But that A&M game sets you up and sets you apart to where you can afford to have that stretch down the end and still be able to maintain that 6 wins. And that's assuming that you start 3-3. You could be 4-2. Could be. But that A&M game just changes the entire trajectory of everything. So let's play the other side of it. Say if you lose to Texas A&M, okay? You're 3-3 still going into that game, but you lose to Texas A&M at home. Auburn, Mississippi State, yeah, you should still beat them, but then, how confident are you going to be going into that Auburn game after losing to A&M at home? Especially considering if you lost to them in a convincing way. Probably not the same. Mississippi State, you should win anyways. Okay, great. But then in the final 3-game stretch, you're definitely not, at least I'm not, predicting Arkansas winning any of those games. So then at best, it's like a 5-7, maybe even a 4-8 year because of the A&M loss. That's how my mind is working on this. If you think it's the Ole Miss game, again, I get it, but you have so many other games, and it's so early in the year where you're like, hey, maybe Ole Miss is fool's gold. Maybe they end up being a terrible team. and you end up just being wrong about it all. And suddenly that win against Ole Miss doesn't look as good as it once did. Kind of like what you did against Texas in 2021. It was a great win. But looking at it in hindsight, it wasn't exactly that great because Texas was not that good that year, ended up being. So it's just too early in the year. But my point is this, and it comes down to this. If Arkansas beats Texas A&M at the worst they do is 6-6. But if they beat Texas A&M, there's a chance that they have 7-8 wins. There's a chance. But that A&M game is going to be everything. It's at home. Darren McFadden's getting honored, thankfully. It's a guaranteed afternoon, night game. It's either 2:30, 7 p.m., one of those two. So the tailgating will be great. And if you're like 4-2 going into that game, the atmosphere is going to be electric. It's all set up for that. That's the game. The Aggies, which I know you've had so much success against. You've only beaten them once since, the Obama administration. But that's the game. That's the game for me. You guys agree, right? I'm sure. Go into the comments and argue amongst yourselves. I'm sure you guys all agree with me on that one. All right, we're going to talk about the new field rushing policy for Arkansas. Yes, there is a thing. It is a thing. We'll talk about it. So stay with us here on Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, I am here to tell you about our friends over at Rugiet. And Rugiet, you've probably heard of maybe Viagra, Cialis, something like that. Well, maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, then it's time to get Rugiet ready. Rugiet is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and clicks in very fast. On average, about 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you stay confident and in control when the moment hits just right. If traditional options haven't worked, maybe Rugiet is your answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. And the fact that it's completely online, Rugiet connects you with board-certified doctors and ship your treatment discreetly to your door. You can even read real customer reviews on their site, and it's helping a lot of people feel more confident and more comfortable and more present when the moment hits. So head over to rugiet.com/lockedoncollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit Rugiet website for full safety information. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, I want to bring up this particular deal, okay, that was officially announced by the University of Arkansas in an email that was sent out, but also a press release, if you will. It was not something I expected to see, but I find it pretty fascinating. We'll see if you do as well. It just is titled, The New Field Rushing Policy That's in Place for 2025 Season. For those of you who remember, Arkansas rushed the field last year, and we know the SEC and how they feel about field rushing. So what does this mean? Here's the reading. In order to comply with the Southeastern Conference field rushing policy, Arkansas Athletics is implementing a new policy in 2025. Following a momentous win, 3 minutes will be placed on the video boards inside of Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium to delay the field rush and allow the visiting team, staff, and officials to exit the field. At the conclusion of the 3 minutes, fans will be allowed down to the field to celebrate with the Razorbacks. The SEC's updated field rushing policy now includes a $500,000 fine for every incident across all sports. The fine money is awarded to the visiting institution during conference games and goes to the league office for incidents during non-conference events. So essentially, if you rush the field against Notre Dame, because let's be honest, that's the only one you would rush it against, that will go to the conference. You are giving money just straight to the SEC. Hunter Yurchek said, the safety of our student athletes and student athletes from the visiting institution is extremely important to all of us. While implementing the new policy, we are allowing the visiting team to clear the field so our fans can safely join our team on the field to celebrate a big win. We look forward to our fans and students complying with this policy the first time we get to implement it so we can all enjoy a huge win. And it just goes on to talk about the games and whatnot. So either way, this is the policy that they have in place. Now, some people are just going to take this because it's like, oh, well, 100-year check, Arkansas did it, therefore it sucks. It's stupid. It's dumb. And, hey, listen, that's your opinion. As I've said many times, even if some people don't believe me, I try to take everything as it is and look at it as it is. And this particular thing, I don't mind it. I get it. Because at least from my understanding of reading this, it sounds like that if you give them the 3 minutes to get off the field, the opposing team, the officials and all that, you won't be fined $500,000. That's the vibe I get. I don't know if that's the truth, but that's the type of feeling that it certainly gives. Where it says 3 minutes are going to be placed. It delays it. And then fans will be allowed to, and it says in order to comply with the Southeastern Conference field rushing policy. So I guess it's just a way to help out. Well, first off, 3 minutes is not long. Like as soon as the game ends, you got the trainers, you got the equipment, you got the bench, you got everyone just hustling off the field. And I don't know if 3 minutes is going to be enough, but what are you going to do? It's going to be so awkward. Everyone's like, yay, we're going to sit here for 3 minutes. So what time is it? 2 minutes, 45 seconds. All right. Let's get ready. Play the music, and you're just sitting there waiting. And it's like, all right, does the buzzer go off? Does it sound like it's the end of the game? Whack, and people just storm it. Yeah. What if it's past 3 minutes and those players aren't on the field? What if someone's straggling around? What happens there? Does you get fined still no matter what? There's just a lot of questions I have for it. But here's the deal. Honestly. If you don't like field rushing, then, we're not even arguing that because that's your opinion. You can do whatever. But I actually do like field rushings and court rushings because it's make college sports so great. Now, I think it needs to be done in certain aspects. I don't think it needs to be done just willy-nilly. I think it needs to have some sort of feeling. Like beating a top 5 team last year in Tennessee was a good one. Beating Texas a few years ago was a good one. I don't think Arkansas has really rushed over a game that wasn't a big deal that I had a problem with, or at least an overly a big problem with. But if you're going to do it, I'm fine with this because it's like they could, and I'm talking about the U of A, they could just say, nope. Jeff Long did that. It's like, no, you can't do it. We're putting up security and so people are going to get arrested. And they could do that. No one wants that because that's going to end badly for everyone. So at least with this, they're like, hey, we're trying to avoid this $500,000 fine because we know the U of A is short on money, which apparently they are. But they're like, we're just not going to get fined $500,000. But we want you guys to enjoy it. We want you guys to celebrate. We want the field rushing to happen. So just give us 3 minutes, just 3 minutes. And I don't think that's too much to ask. Now, is it awkward? Is it weird? Is it going to take away from it? Probably so, at least maybe in the first time because everyone's kind of like, and some people won't even listen. There'll be some drunk students and be like, 3 minutes, my foot, and just run out there. But again, I don't have a problem with this. It's weird, yes, but it's better than the alternative, which is just none. And don't you dare do it. But then at the same time, if I'm completely wrong about all of this and then Arkansas gets fined no matter what, even if they wait 3 minutes, then that's really dumb. Like, I don't want to see anyone get hurt. I don't want to see players getting altercations. But at the same time, it's like, well, you can't police that. There's just no way of doing it. So either way, it's odd. It's odd, but it'll be fine. So how many regular season wins does Arkansas need to get into the college football playoff discussion? That's a real thing. I promise you. We'll talk about it. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, if you're running a business, every missed call is just money left on your table. Think about the last time that you needed a service. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on. And that's why you need Open Phone, so you never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. If you're one of those people that juggle 2 phones at once, well, this takes care of that. It sucks because you got a work phone, personal phone. It's all hard to keep up with. Open Phone solves that problem instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox without trying to figure out, all right, well, who's on top of this? And the AI agent, yes, AI agent, handles after-hours calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so that you never have to miss a customer again. I mean, that's big time. See why over 60,000 businesses trust Open Phone. They're offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedoncollege. That's openphone.com/lockedoncollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. We're also presented by our friends of Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real awards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football is going to be here very soon, as we all know. So whether you got your eye on a big-name quarterback or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get into the game. For this weekend, Prize Picks is offering major discounts. Say the Avery Johnson max discount, which is happening on Saturday, August 23rd. Hey, that's this weekend. How about that? Versus Iowa State. Hey, how about 0.5 pass yards? How about the max discount number 2 with Dak Prescott? Get that max discount. That's Thursday, September 4th for that game against Philly. 0.5 yards and above. Like, that's the over. You can get that. That's a great deal that you're not going to get anywhere else. And that's Prize Picks. I mean, it's simple to play, really, too. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. It's that simple. Prize Picks also puts their members first because that's what's most important to them. So with all withdrawals, they're fast, safe, and secure. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 off in your lineups. After you play your first $5 lineup, that's Locked On College to get $50 off in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, run your game. Okay, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Yeah, I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to have some fun with it. This is a graphic that was put up by K Ford. I'm just going to show it to you right here. So this is K Ford's graphic of the total regular season wins required to be in the college football playoff at-large discussion. This is not a guarantee. This is not anything other than just you got to be in the discussion. And right there at the top, given, and it says based on schedule difficulty, by the way, within each threshold, teams that are listed are by projected strength total of wins. This is according to K Ford rankings. At the top, you have 4 teams listed to 8 wins. So if these teams got to 8 wins in the regular season, they would at least be in the conversation for the college football playoff. Arkansas is one of them. Arkansas, Florida, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt. If one of those 4 teams, given the difficulty of their schedule, won 8 games, they would at least be in the conversation. They would not be in it. They'd be in the conversation. And I think that's a fascinating thing because you see, like, most of the SEC teams are there at the top of 8, 9, 10. And you have some teams at the bottom that just can't do it no matter what happens. Point is, if you're there, you're in it. You're in the conversation. And I can't help but think that if Arkansas, of course, got to 9 wins, would that mean that they're guaranteed to be into the college football playoff? No, it's no guarantee. But there's a chance that maybe they'd be the first 9-3 team to make it. It's pretty new. It's a pretty new process. But it just shows you the difficulty of the schedule and where it's going to be. But to me, it's got to be this way. If you're someone that feels like your team could make the playoff or needs to make the playoff or deserves to make the playoff or whatever it is, you have to win 10 games. That's to me the barometer. You have to be able to win 10 games, regular season. If you're 10-2 in the SEC, you're going to the playoff. I would be shocked if we'll ever see a time where a team in the SEC goes 10-2 and does not make the playoff, at least in the current format. And even if it expanded, that would make it even more likely that a team would make it. And that's the only thing that I'm ever going to feel good about. And some of you may feel like, well, if they expanded the playoffs to 16 teams or 24 teams, and we got in as Arkansas fans at 8-4, I wouldn't feel, it wouldn't mean as much. Whatever. You could be 8-4, and because I know I would be. I'd be sitting there being, oh man, 8-4. This team could. Depending on the opponents they're playing, they could find a way and make a win out of it. Like, that's immediately what my process and my mindset would be like. So either way, I think it's fascinating that that's built that way. I think it's also some legitimacy to it when it comes to if Arkansas is going to take that step and, how tough their schedule is, but also if they got to that mark, you'd at least have the combo. And imagine if Arkansas starts what we talked about in the first segment, like 6-3, for instance. If they start 6-3, there's going to be a path. I'm just saying there's going to be a path that we're going to bring up for sure. But either way, it's just fun to talk about. I appreciate each and every one of you listening and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter, John Nabors Show, for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have, and we'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. See you then.